hit record, and then I'm going to, if you all please just mute your audio. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening as we present another Parent University webinar live series here at Friendship Public Charter School. We apologize for the lateness, but we are here and we are glad that we are here to be able to come to you this evening. My name is Simone Green. I am the Events and Programming Director in the Office of Communications, the Chief of Communications Office for Friendship Schools. Thank you again for joining Parent University Live webinar series on Whoosah, You Got This. This engaging webinar introduces the parent to our schools-based wellness team and shares strategies to manage a variety of challenges that accompany distant learning. Parents, you will be provided support in utilizing coping mechanisms and strategies to manage strong emotions, creating a positive in a stress-free home classroom environment, and collaborating with school support staff. And so let's get started, and I hope that you enjoy it. And go ahead, Dr. Carrington, it is, you can go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Kara Covington. I am the school psychologist at Chamberlain campus of the Friendship Public Charter Schools. And today we also have with us, unmute yourself.
My name is Linda Hester, and I am the school social worker for the Chamberlain campus as well.
Today we're going to talk to you about, as has been stated, several strategies that we can offer to share to families as you begin this journey of distance learning and virtual learning. So we've entitled our presentation, Whoosah, You've Got This. We're here for you. We are part of the wellness team at Chamberlain, which is at every one of our friendship schools. And because of this, we want to share with you some information. So we're going to start off with something kind of fun as we introduce ourselves to you. Ms. Hester will start off with her introduction of herself.
Thank you, Dr. Covington. So my name is Linda Hester, and again, I am the social worker for the Chamberlain campus. And one fun fact about me is I love the game of basketball, and I am a 3-time Hall of Famer for women's basketball, having to begin my college career at LaSalle University. And also, I am a basketball coach for children with asthma.
And a fun fact about me is that in periods of my life, I have always loved the Muppets and have wanted to be a puppeteer and have done so. And so I'm just a Kermit the Frog fan. Unfortunately, Ms. Saunders is unable to be with us. She is our school counselor. And she has lots of fun facts about being a Trinidadian and loving carnival. So our vision for the presentation today that we want to share with you is that we, as your wellness team, are here to help. Our guiding goal is to provide the social and emotional support for your scholars and for you, and to assist you in developing coping strategies and skills to help you to manage your time and to develop your mental wellness, as well as developing your own joy factor in virtual learning. So that is what our goal is today as we present this information to you. So Ms. Hester will start us off by introducing what she, as the school social worker, does in our building.
Sure, absolutely. So as the school social worker, one of my primary function is to support students who may be having some challenges, whether that is academic and or behavior or personal challenges. So individual mental health support and counseling I conduct on a regular basis, as well as completing behavioral health assessments to get to the bottom of or to clarify where the issues lie with our students and give us a beginning standpoint on where I could be supportive. Also, student crisis intervention. We are now in a time where things are very challenging and they require us to adapt rather quickly. With that, there are student crises that can emerge. And so when that occurs, I am available for teachers and parents, as well as other staff, who may witness or see that a child is having a difficult time in the classroom. I also provide case management support, which means that I maintain a caseload throughout the school year. And this caseload are children who primarily show signs of struggling or challenges throughout the year. And so I have a close contact with their parents, as well as the teacher and the student. And we sort of put our heads together to come up with solutions and strategies that can best support the scholar. With that, I also make referrals to community resource centers, such as mental health support, also community centers that are providing leadership and motivation, support and counseling. Also community food banks and other resources that could be useful and helpful. I also provide support to parents. Parents too are facing challenges as well, having to step up their presence and having to address issues that are unforeseen occurrences can sometimes bring on stress, such as having to be at home with your scholar and managing and supporting at-home virtual education. So parents also are entitled or have an option to give me a call and we can chat and talk things through. The student and staff support team, I'm an active member. And so with contacting a teacher, the director of the student staff support team, a dean, a counselor, a psychologist, I also serve as a participant in that team as well. Parent and student case conferencing is very important, where we come together to engage, to discuss what the issues are and how we can best address the concern for our scholars. Also, I am pretty much available for pre-K to third grade. However, throughout the school, issues may arise regardless of the age or the grade in which the scholar is enrolled. So when those times permit, I'm also available for the upperclassmen as well. Thank you, Dr. Covington.
Thank you, Ms. Hester.
Sure.
All right. I am the school psychologist on board at Chamberlain School, and what I primarily do is I provide behavioral support for our scholars who have individualized education plans, which is a legal document that our scholars have who have been identified with the need for special education services or specialized instruction based on testing that has been conducted. And so our scholars at times need help and support in being able to manage their behaviors and their emotions, being able to focus in class. And so I provide those kinds of supports for our scholars who have IEPs. I also provide behavioral support within the virtual classroom setting. I go into the Zoom classrooms with our scholars and provide the kind of support they may need to help them to remain focused, to be able to, for some of our scholars, the challenge is having to manage their anxiety about speaking up and responding and participating in class. So I provide those kinds of supports within the classroom setting. I also provide individual and group therapy through lunch bunch sessions. So I gather some of our scholars together during their lunch hour, and we work on their social skills. We work on the IEP goals that they may have, but we also are doing that outside of their classroom setting so that they're able to develop some of those skills and be able to have that social interaction that's really important for our scholars in the time of virtual learning. I also provide self-care assessments. There are instances where some of our scholars may be feeling sad and depressed, and may make statements where they have the potential to commit self-harm. And in those instances, I sit down with the child and talk with them through those concerns. And then I also contact the parent and make sure that we notify the parent as well as any other outside agencies that may need to help the scholar with how they're feeling and how they're able to manage those emotions. I also attend individualized educational plan meetings and eligibility meetings for scholars who may have, we may have considered, may need the services, and then providing the annual progress report on how they are meeting their annual goals, as well as whether or not they may actually need the services. I also provide family support to scholars who meet these eligibility requirements. One of the things that I do is I do evaluations, psychoeducational evaluations. And so we provide family support. I explain the evaluations to the parents in a way that they will be able to understand what their child's functioning is and what possible services they may need to help them to learn better and have the differentiated instruction that we require for our scholars who may need the extra help. And then I also have collaborative check-ins with my teachers, with parents, with family members, guardians as well, and with our administrators and scholars as a part of our student service support team. So we provide the kinds of support that are needed. There are times when I will go into the classroom, and although I'm there to work with one of our scholars with an IEP, I have other scholars who are in the general education environment and who still have those concerns. And so we try to support all of our scholars regardless of whether or not they have an IEP. Now, Ms. Saunders is not here today, but I do think that it's so important for you as parents to understand what the school counselor does in our building and in all the buildings and all of the schools that are friendship schools. What Ms. Saunders does is she primarily provides the counseling and individual and group counseling support for our older scholars, which are in our junior academy from grades 4 through 8th grade. She also works with the clinical support of which could be outside providers for our scholars. There are times when our scholars who are in the general education population of scholars who may have anxiety, may have experienced depression, and may have been either hospitalized or may have outside mental health supports. And so what Ms. Saunders does as our school counselor is she's a liaison between those services. And she makes contact with those services because we wanted to provide the continuity of services and support that our scholars may need during the school day. She also provides behavioral support within the virtual classroom setting. She goes and visits schools, the classrooms throughout the day, checks in on our scholars, those who may need the extra support to be able to manage their emotions and their behavior in the classroom. She goes in and provides that kind of support. She also provides the individual and group counseling through the lunch bunches and through academic support for our scholars who may either have been retained or may be struggling with their academic development. Ms. Saunders schedules groups with these scholars so that they can start talking about how to organize and how to manage their assignments, and gives them that kind of encouragement to help to keep them focused on their academic progress. Now, our school counselor also provides self-care assessments as well. We do whole mind, whole child when we have our scholars who are really struggling emotionally. Again, she does help to make those assessments as well, so that we as a team, as the wellness team, come together to decide what would be best for our scholars, whether or not they may need outside support or whether they may also need the kind of support and check-ins as well as daily check-ins for some of our scholars. And then Ms. Saunders, our school counselor, also attends academic and behavioral support meetings with our scholars regarding any social and emotional needs so that they may be successful, and also collaborates with our director of student support services so that we can make sure that we as a team will provide the kind of support that's necessary, not just for our scholars, but for their families as well. And then she also does observations in the classroom so that if we have scholars who teachers have identified as having some struggles in the classroom, our school counselor goes into the classroom and makes formal observations of their ability to be able to function or their difficulties, so that as a support service staff, we can bring that to the table and decide what interventions may be necessary to help our scholars to be more successful. And then she also collaborates with the school leadership team, which is our dean of students, our school social worker, our school psychologist, as well as our principal and our academy directors, so that we can make sure that we are providing the behavioral and mental health support that our scholars are in need of. So here we are. We want to find out what can we do during this pandemic that we have been experiencing over the past 6 months. This has been a real challenge, and we are more than aware that our families have met the challenge and have exceeded the challenge, but sometimes there are some days when it just doesn't work. So how do you do that? Let's see. All right, so the first thing we want to talk about today is how can you prevent burnout? Well, we do recognize that it is a great challenge. Today, even today with a group of my scholars, the first thing was, I'm sleepy, I'm tired. Okay, how do we do this? How do you manage your personal and your virtual schedule? How do you create the separation between your workspace and your home space? And then how do you set up listening time for your scholar? So what we recognize that is a huge challenge that we all have faced is that when you're working from home, sometimes home and school and family, all of that kind of gets intertwined. And so one of the things that we would suggest for you is creating that separate virtual space, having a box to put your scholars materials in, and closing up shop when school is over. Yes, they do have homework, providing them the time to have the homework, providing them the physical space that's necessary for them to have the focus. It is a challenge when you're in a one-bedroom apartment. How do you find the space? Well, as much as possible, finding a table and a place for them to have, as some of our scholars do, have that college-ready posture to be able to sit up tall, to be able to focus. Sometimes it's necessary for you to allow them to have those breaks when you see that your scholar needs that movement break, to allow them that, as well as their ability to be able to focus. But then also having some real clear boundaries and time to be able to recognize that there is school time, which can be structured in a way where you can use a calendar, you can use a schedule, so that your children and your scholars have that visual presence of, this is what I can expect during my school day. But then when school is over, allowing them to have the time and space to recognize that school is over, pack it up and put it away. It's so important too for your scholars to have listening time. It is very challenging to be with your scholars all day long while they're learning and they're trying to get help on how to get on Zoom and my computer's not working, but just that extra special time that they can have with you, to know that you are here for them, that you are listening to them, that when they have something they want to talk about, that they're not just brushed aside, but that you are really making sure that you lend yourselves to them, that you allow yourselves the opportunity to give them the space that they need to talk about the things that are important to them, that are stressful for them as a family. Having that reading time at night. Sometimes you need to have the kinds of structure in your home and in your family so that there's a book into the day, that they can recognize that before I go to bed at night, it's not just go to bed. It's okay, you have 10 minutes of my ear time. Let's read a story together. Oh my gosh, what an awesome way for you to spend time with your scholar and to let them know how important they are to you, even in this stressful time of learning at home. Oops, sorry, went too fast. All right, another thing that we're working on is, and would like to suggest to you, that is so important that you provide the emotional support, that you are really the first observation specialist in this child's life. It is so important for you to pay attention to the behaviors. When you see that this is too stressful for your child, but it's still a necessary part of their life to get their education, and now we're doing it virtually. It's so important for you to check on the behaviors that you see. And have conversations with the teacher about what you're seeing, because the teacher can also give you some strategies to be able to help. One of the things that I stress so much is accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. It's so important that you praise the approximation of the behaviors that you're looking for. No, your scholars are not perfect, but if you see that they're sitting up in their chair, they're focused, say something positive. Use a sticky pad, put those little notes on your child's computer. I put some notes on my son's computer because I want him to focus. I want him to be his best. So I've taped it to his computer. So whenever he opens it up, he sees that word that I have put for his encouragement. And so that is what I'm encouraging you to do. But also pick up on the cues that your scholar is struggling. You know your child better than anyone. You've known them since birth. And so I would suggest to you that if you find that your scholar is really struggling emotionally, that you reach out to your wellness team. That's what we're here for, the school psychologist, the social worker, the school counselor. We are here and available so that when you see that your scholar's in need of something, or to talk about those emotional things that may be overwhelming for them, that you reach out and allow us to support you and support your scholar. And then also always engage in that positive as much as you can, encourage your child, encourage your scholar to be the best they can be, but then also accepting them for some of the things that they may have struggles with, but they're just a part of who they are. So, praise them, and then let your teachers know as well when you feel like your scholar's doing a great job. Reach out to your teachers, email your teachers, let them know, my scholar last night did all his homework by himself. You're proud of that. So send those kinds of positive messages to surround your scholars so that they can be as successful as they can be. Ms. Hester is going to tell us about meltdown management. Unmute yourself, Ms. Hester.
Sorry. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that. Meltdown management. So they occur for you and they occur for your scholar. The most important thing to know about it, that it's okay. Oftentimes we try to do our best to support our child or to do our best to support our scholar. But when it comes to ourselves, we kind of let it bypass us as if it's not major or if it's not significant. I'm here to encourage you as the parent, as the adult, to allow your meltdown to happen too. You too are adjusting to major changes, and you too are a part of what's happening in our larger society. So that means you are also affected. And therefore, you should allow yourself to have the feelings and the thoughts and the meltdowns that you need as an adult and as a parent who's supporting the scholar. So allow it to happen. Understand that it's just a natural part of adapting. It's also a natural part of coping with stress. And also give yourself space to recover. Allow it to occur. Understand that it is occurring and that it is a natural part of a reaction, but allow yourself to recover. Allow yourself to give yourself compassion about where you are. Take the time to discuss it with your scholar when they are ready and when you are ready. There seems not to be any rush to do this, except to know that it is a part of adjusting and adapting to situations that's not typical nor ideal. So as far as the parents are concerned, you too can find a place to discuss it as well. And you too can discuss your meltdown when you are ready. Think about taking some time out. How do you take time out for you and your scholar? An example would be to go to the park, to allow bicycle riding or rollerblading or skating, or just being a typical kid, just to allow to run around and be free. What is it that you as an adult could allow yourself to do? Perhaps it could be a combined activity with you and your child, or perhaps it could be something that you would like to do on your own, something that gives you internal relaxation and calmness. So think about transcending frustration when it occurs, because at times we allow frustration to get the best of us. We spend so much time fighting against frustration that we miss the messages that we can learn from it. Frustration can be your teacher. It could be your friend if you allow it and place yourself in a position to learn from your frustration. Just know that it's typical at this moment, at this time, and is far more prevalent than what we expected. So allow yourself to have your meltdowns and allow yourself to have your frustration, but at the same time, allow yourself opportunity to learn from frustrating events. Thank you, Dr. Covington. Next slide, please. So I mentioned briefly about frustration. What's important is that you use your coping toolbox, whatever that may be for you, whether it's to take a walk, whether it's to have a hot cup of tea, whether it's to have a warm bath and some lavender oil, we don't know. But use your coping toolbox. Particularly, your coping toolbox will be your school personnel. The psychologist, the counselor, the social worker, the deans are here to help you. So add the school personnel to your toolbox as well. And you, again, that's also a part of your social and emotional team. So it is available for your scholar, but it's also available to you. The earlier and the more often a parent engages in communication, it results in the scholars staying on target with assignments and instruction. So with that, your toolbox becomes a good coping mechanism for you to support coping and interaction with your scholar. Moving right along, Dr. Covington. So we are all in. Let's problem solve together because we care. We care as your school social support team. We care as the social worker, as the psychologist, as the counselors. We do care. And we understand that these are some difficult and challenging times. And so allow yourself to understand that situations will occur that may be not within your scope of a normal practice. Let yourself know that we care and we can problem solve together.
Well, we thank you. This is the end of our presentation. We want you to know that you can woosah. You have this. Again, make use of your wellness team at your friendship school. We all are here together. We're one community, we're one family, one friendship family. And so we just want you to know that we are here to support you. And we look forward to anything that we as a wellness team can do to help provide the behavioral and emotional support that you, your scholar, and your family may need. Thank you, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Thank you,
Sure.
Dr. Covington.
So I have a question. Can you guys see my video? I can't.
No, I'll stop sharing so you can.
Okay. Okay, so I did something and I can't see myself. That's weird. Oh, I know what I did. So let me just go ahead and ask the question. The question that I had is, what are the I don't see why I can't see myself. Okay, what are the trends that you all are seeing with during this pandemic with our scholars and with our families?
Should I begin, Dr. Covington?
Go ahead, Ms. Hester.
Okay, so one of the trends that I am seeing as social worker is frustration. That's one of the trends, and that's why I included it in the presentation, because it seems to be more prevalent of a mood or of a state in which a lot of our parents are in, as well as our scholars, just because of the demand that's set upon parents and scholars to make rapid and abrupt changes. Also, not having the ability to be social beings like we have been, being able to go out and see our families and our friends and being able to interact and being able to enjoy life as we knew it. And that's also a part of the frustration. Also, parents are now required to kind of hone in on the academic expectation, the attendance expectation, and to be readily available to support their scholar. Most parents oftentimes are outside of the home working and providing great resources for their families. But at this moment, the requirement is to stay a little more compact and to be readily available. So the frustration and adapting to all of that seems to be more of a trend than what I experience as social work.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to say that there seems to be a lot more anxiety that as a people, I think the looming overarching gray cloud of the COVID, as people say, as the corona, really has been so impactful in the lives of our scholars and our families. A lot of our scholars have like as Ms. Hester has said, they are quarantined and they have been in the house. For most of our scholars, if they need a hug, they'll get a hug. And that lack of tactile input has been really significant for some of our scholars who are really kinesthetically based, that they need the touch, they need to be interactive with others. And so I think that has been one of the biggest things. And then the fear of that I might catch the virus and that someone in my family may die, or that I'll bring it home and I'll bring that home to cause harm to my family members, is also a very difficult thing for our scholars to have to be able to manage. And then in light of that, having loss that they may have experienced from someone they knew or someone in their family, and then having to deal with that loss without having the ability to be able to fully grieve, and then still have to keep moving and still have to keep learning. So that, I think those are some of the very difficult things that our scholars and our families have had to manage over this time.
Right. And if I could piggyback a little bit off of what Dr. Covington said, lost. And so grieving is also a loss of a loved one, but it's also loss of freedom. It's also loss of not being able to navigate the world like we used to. It's also loss of not being able to tap into the desire of what we want to do as human beings. So grieving takes place in various forms and in various directions based on what's significant to the individual.
Wow. Has the racial unrest that we are seeing now, has it been affecting our scholars and families in some way? Not only the pandemic, but also with what they're seeing regarding the recent situations that has happened.
So I'll speak to that question. I believe you were asking racial issues,
right? Yes.
Within given communities, and sure, within the African American population, we have seen risen amounts of the COVID-19 and its effect. So it's been effective in terms of loss of income. It's been more prevalent in terms of illnesses because of pre-medical conditions. It's been more prevalent because of some of us living in close quarters, in close environments, whether it be housing, apartment buildings, we don't know, just based on the environment in which one lives. It could also be effective. And when you think of communities of color, there could be families living very close, within close proximity. And just knowing that my aunt is 3 blocks away and I not able to navigate that is very stressful. And so I think that those are some of the prevalent issues that are in populations of color, particularly the African American communities. And then having access to resources. That's very important, having access to medical care and proper medications, and being able to access a hospital or a clinic that has appropriate equipment and technology. All of those things are prevalent in communities of color that I believe affect community of color in more prevalent levels.
Thank you so much. This was a great session that will happen today. And again, thank you all who joined us on Zoom and also on Facebook Live. We want to thank our Facebook Live guests. And if you have any questions, please type in the comments. I'm looking now and I don't see any questions, but I believe your presentations that you and Dr. Covington did today address a lot of those issues, and wanted to give out our information for those who may have some questions after they see this on Facebook. They can also email us at wecare@friendshipschools.org. That is wecare@friendshipschools.org. And then you can also call our hotline. That is area code 202-281-1777. That is 202-281-1717. Again, thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you again at Parent University webinar live on Facebook next Wednesday at 5 p.m.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thank you for joining.
Okay, let me stop.